This podcast is officially, unofficially brought to you by Liquid Death. Why drink alcohol when you can have bubblies? Yeah. This stuff's amazing.
Yeah, you gotta get the armless Palmer.
That's my wife's favorite. It's Seth Ewing, the man behind Operation Tabletop, a nonprofit that is bringing veterans together to play tabletop games, to have open discussions about what you're going through, what you're struggling with, and be supported. In this day and age, it's all about insulation, not isolation. And what you guys are doing is nothing short of amazing. So, Seth, thank you for being here today. Dude, let's dive into it, man. Like, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your journey, my man.
Yeah, man. Pretty humble journey. Just a dumb hillbilly. Grew up in the Shenandoah Valley.
Wait a second. Are you bullshitting me?
No, man. Nope. Yeah, I was lucky enough to join the Air Force at 18. Or fortunate that they took a chance on me and gave me a job. I've been serving ever since. It's been a great time. And yeah.
Good. That's in my mind, just because John Denver is such an amazing artist. And when I hear that, I have to think of an idyllic place to grow up. Is that sort of where your love for tabletop games began?
Yeah, kind of. So, I grew up in like the western part of Virginia, so not West Virginia. And I was, fortunately I had a great mom, and she was always, encouraging me to be creative.
Yeah.
And so I was always like creating little board games. And we were always playing board games. Our favorite one growing up was Clue. That's still my favorite board game today. And my mom was really great at that game. And I just dove into everything kind of nerdy, but I was kind of like well-rounded in the sense that I would get out and be involved in other things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played like Yu-Gi-Oh, just super nerdy. Magic the Gathering. I got into Magic Gathering in the third grade because my mom worked at a college, and some of the students were playing, and I was like, "What is this?" And my brother got into it too, and he and I would just go head to head all the time, playing D&D, playing Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog or not, but
yeah, man, it's always good. Yeah. For the first 3 seasons, my dog, my giant schnauzer Charlie, made guest appearances all the time. So totally cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun fact: if you do enough podcasts and it becomes a business, you can use your pets as employees, and it could be a tax write-off. Who would have thought?
What?
Awesome. And that's how you get audited.
Yeah. That's a great way to get the IRS on you.
Yeah, man. It always blew my mind. Like growing up, if you played card games or you played Dungeons and Dragons, people always like, "Oh, you're a freaking nerd," and then you realize that when you get in the military, it's nothing but fucking nerds. It's nothing but people that love video games, love fucking anime, love card games, love Warhammer, D&D. And there's a vast amount of people, even within special operations, you find people that are in love with these games. It has nothing to do. And now proudly we can proclaim and say, yeah, I'm a fucking nerd. I grew up with Halo and love all the video game the mythos and all the different things that come from those games that just enrich our lives. But one of the key things is that it does bring you together with people, whether it's LAN parties or sitting down and playing these board games with people. Like, how did that become a vital aspect of your service and in your life?
Yeah. So during my service, you deploy and you don't have a lot of Wi-Fi, so you kind of resort to the more analog stuff, the archaic things. You can't just jump online and play video games with your friends. And so my first deployment, it was a really chill deployment. It wasn't anything, but my friends and I made some friends out there, and we would play this game called Zombies. all the time. It was like this tile-based game, super fun. And that's when the nerdiness started to kick back in for me, because after I joined, I kind of lost it and was like focusing on my career and the professional duties. And then after that deployment, I was like, dude, this is awesome. I started getting back into more tabletop stuff rather than video games. I was still into video games, but my love for tabletop kind of came back a little bit there. And so and when you're deployed, you just notice you can really build strong bonds at the table and over some games, like especially cooperative ones.
Yep. And a lot of people forget that, it's easy to, log in from your PC, get on Steam, and just numb out on playing a shooter or playing League of Legends, whatever your vice is. But you don't really connect, even in chat. Like, it's more abuse. Like connecting with friends, because nothing's worse than a Call of Duty lobby. It's the absolute worst. There's not a lot of support there. You're not walking in there saying, "Hey guys, I think I'm going through depression." You're gonna go through there and really quickly realize that nobody cares about you. But in that sort of like face to face, and even there's a lot of new venues where you can actually play tabletop remote with people. Something about that method of engaging with people actually allows people to be a little vulnerable. It allows people to open up. You feel a little more connected in those games.
Yeah, and we do most of our gaming online through they're called virtual tabletops. Virtual tabletop websites, like Roll20 is the one that we use the most, and it can be almost as immersive as being actually at the table. It's pretty much as close as you can get online to being at a table. But nothing actually beats being at the table. The grip of feel of holding a mini or rolling some dice, you just can't beat that. And what the online piece does is it allows us to connect to more people. It creates a bigger web for us. To be able to reach out to and insulate more people. Yeah.
Let's take it back for a second. Like, how did this concept of Operation Tabletop, how did that start? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so the catalyst for it was back in 2017. My brother Tori committed suicide, and that hit me really hard. But like most men, I did the tough guy thing where I just bottled it up, buried it, and then I put a tight lid on it. And that lid, or that cork that I stuck in there, was to keep it pressed down, was my professional duties. I just buried myself in work like any other man would do, and focused on just being better at my job. And that worked for a time. I made rank. I got a really prestigious job, and I committed myself to that for a few years. But the Air Force divested of that job, that squadron that I was at, and so that's whenever I learned that was like around 2021. That's when the cork kind of came off and the emotions started coming back up, because that thing that I was using to hold everything together was coming undone, right? And I wasn't going to be doing that job that I'd worked really hard for. And so I started, the only thing that was kind of keeping me going at the time was D&D. Those D&D sessions with my friends every weekend, it kind of became that lifeline that I didn't even know I needed. Because before I was just doing it for fun, but then I realized like this is actually helping me. And some time passed. I was dealing with all those emotions. They started slowly bubbling up, coming back to the surface. And I talked to my friends, my D&D group, about the idea of like, hey, like this is pretty helpful to me. Like I know it's probably helpful for you guys as well. Like, what if we brought this to the community, right? Like, what if we figured out a way to create a community where vets can come together and play, and we started doing some research. That's when I found Dr. Jared Kilmer. He's a clinical psychologist, great dude. June 1st, actually, we're having a round table with him with Tabletop Misfits. But I saw an article about him and the work that he was doing with the VA, and he was using Dungeons and Dragons to treat PTSD in the VA. And I was like, there you go, evidence-based, that helps support, like, this does help people. Granted, we don't use it as a therapy tool, it's just innately like therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
So about the time, it's a little like we developing the idea, building some research, learning how to be a nonprofit leader. Like, what does that take? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. I have these leadership skills that the military thankfully gave me, but I don't know how to apply it into like a business, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had to do a lot of learning on that side. Then my last deployment, I came back and I came back to no unit, so I didn't have a job.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I effectively didn't have that job anymore. I was like, all right, cool. Now what? So
just show up. It's a game. Your job's gone.
Yeah.
Your job's gone.
Oh man. And I mean, to be fair, like the Air Force can do Air Force things. Like I'm not pee-pee hearted about it, you know.
No.
I mean, I did really enjoy that job, and it was very rewarding. And that, you know, I did work really hard for it.
Yeah.
But and it gave me a lot of purpose. But that purpose was gone now. So now I had to move. I had to like move forward with OTT to kind of fill that void.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't addressed the main issue, which was dealing with the loss of my brother.
Yeah.
Right. I was just trying to mask it some more with this new purpose, which is Operation Tabletop. So I got back and I really started spiraling out of control. I was consuming tons of video games, alcohol, like not just beer, but like bourbon, like drinking it like every day. And this is when you know it's when you have a problem is when you're hiding it from your wife, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah. So I would like sneak drinks all the time, and I was playing video games every day. Not good ones either, like the toxic ones. And I was also consuming lots of porn as well. Not quite an addiction, but just too much. So you know, I'm not afraid to admit it. Like I'm not, you know.
No,
I'm ashamed of it, but it's like,
that's one of the things that. Yeah, nowadays we have so many things we can consume to numb us out, to get us to avoid life. And dude, we have to talk about it. Pornography. Pornography is now available at your fingertips, like in every sort of app, every app. It's not, it's something that to me is, we don't talk about it enough, and we don't share enough how it's affecting specifically males, whether it's and I know it's affecting our kids and our youth, but adults as well. Like the fact that you can pick up your phone, go on Twitter right now, and be inundated with pornography, and you go to Reddit, you go to like all these apps that they're not even supposed to be apps for pornography, and they are.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Nintendo Switch, man. You go on Nintendo Switch and they have hentai games now.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
I didn't know
like
that.
Full nudity. Yeah, they're not full nudity, but it's still hentai. So it's like, dude, come on, man. I'm like, no shame. Like, there's no shaming. Like, whatever you're into, that's cool, man. Like, I don't kink shame or whatever. Like, you want to play those games, more power to you. It's just, it's important to know for your mental health, right? Because you are what you consume.
Yes.
And, you know, the unholy trinity, video games, alcohol, or any sort of substance, and then porn. It's not a good recipe. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So. And it gets like swept under the rug. We don't really talk about it. And the reality is we need to understand that all these things can like quickly get out of control. just like you were vulnerable enough to share. Like, it becomes one of those things where we're trying to numb out. We're trying to seek pleasure rather than say, hey, I'm going to be okay with discomfort right now. I'm not going to seek out these things on a daily basis. And it rewires our brain really fast. Really, the evidence is out there. It rewires your brain really, really fucking fast. And anybody who's having a hard time, I don't blame you. This is not a thing about judgment. I don't blame you if you're seeking out all these different vices. It's just understanding that when you're ready, you can overcome this. It's not an arduous thing to develop discipline. It's not a thing that you're going to have to, oh God, woe is me. It's like, no, you should be excited about not diving into these things anymore. You should be excited about, like, and video games, man, they're fun and addicting. You can get into Skyrim and just fucking sit there smithing daggers for hours and then enchanting them so that you can sell them for fictional money. I'm saying it as somebody that struggled with that for hours, man. Over 8 hours. Like, I played that game Seth, I played that game so fucking much. It maxed out everything. They're like, the only thing that could save my life was the fact that at some point something corrupted and I couldn't get access to, like, my original file anymore. And then I basically walked away from console. But for a long time, you get so addicted to this idea that if you just forge enough of these daggers and you made enough money, you'd be able to get all the things that you need. And it's like, dude, what are you giving up? You're giving up the real world for this fictional world purely because you're struggling with something in the outside world. And again, I was dealing with insomnia. I was dealing with a whole bunch of other things. And it was that one thing that I could have that I thought it was the one thing I could have that I could feel like I could, like, actually have control and achieve something. And it's ridiculous. It's funny now. You laugh about it now and you're like, Jesus, like, I gave so much of my life over to a fictional game. And now looking on the backside, it's like so many of us are still struggling with that. Still struggling with being it. And luckily, we're not the only ones talking about it. Tons of people have come out and talked about it. You know, Joe Rogan talked about his unhealthy addiction to Quake, another game that will literally take your soul.
I hadn't played that one, but I mean, yeah.
Oh, that's old school. That's,
man, you can get into any, like, Skyrim's about, like, that's a great game. And yeah, but you're right. Like, you spend a lot of these times, like a lot of the time on these video games, and it's somewhat value added because it's fun, right? It's a bit of an escapism, but where does the line get drawn where you start to get into that realm of addiction and it's starting to replace normal activities, right? You're choosing to play a video game over going to the gym. Yeah. Or choosing to play a video game over spending time with your spouse. That's when it gets a little dangerous. And for some people can just play an hour and jump off and flip the switch on and off. I was not one of those people. When it comes to video games, I will grind on it, like, just like Skyrim. Yeah. Before you do anything, you start smithing daggers, man. Yeah. And you grind away and get max level, and then you start the game.
Exactly. And then steal every iron ingot you can find, and then murder every helpless NPC.
Yeah, man. I love Skyrim, but it's the thing about it, though, is like it's kind of an isolating game because it's not multiplayer. No. It's like super cooperative. No. There's a great game out right now. I'm gonna give them some publicity, I guess. They don't need any more. But Baldur's Gate is based off of D&D 5th edition. And it's pretty much as close as you can get to playing a tabletop game through, like, a video game style. And so it merges the two really well. Yeah. They did a great job of kind of merging those two worlds. And so you can get in and be very cooperative with your friends. And so that's a great example of a great video game. But other video games like Apex Legends, hopefully you don't sue me for saying this, but it's super addictive because it's got this very fast pace. It's got loot boxes, and it's very exciting. And
so it's designed that way. Like, and people tend to think that within these tech companies, it's just a bunch of coders and a bunch of people that are just love games. Their R&D department is filled with individuals that can say, hey, this is going to tap into the brain of that kid and get him to feel like it's crack cocaine. Like, it's not done, by accident. It's well formulated, and they do it for a reason. I want to ask you, what about Dungeons and Dragons helps individuals that are struggling with things? Why is that game so unique?
Yeah. So besides bringing everybody together to play something that's cooperative, it's also converse like the opposite of say a fast-paced video game where you can it's the loot box is very high, like quick hits of dopamine, if that's a thing. I don't know. To ask Huberman Labs, I'm not sure how he feels about calling it quick hits of dopamine, but to the layman. And so you are at the mercy of everyone else at the table. Your time, right? So it's very slow pace.
Yeah,
it can be fast, but people take a little bit of time to read things and to move on and to role play a little bit. And so you're building these connections through the character that you're playing, but then also the person that's across the table from you as well as a person, right? So you're strengthening those friendships in like a slower pace environment, so you can actually get to know someone versus like in a video game, a lot of relationships can be, not all, but can be kind of superficial because you're just trying to seize that win. And so you're just, yelling and communicating at each other to capture the flag or whatever, kill the enemy around the corner. But in D&D, it's a lot of role playing a character. And also, if there's something about yourself that you don't really like and you want to work on it, you can, not everybody does this or even knows that you can do this or thinks about it, but you can bring that to the table. You can say, hey man, I have like some impulse control issues, right? So I'm going to try to be more reserved and not react quickly to things. So, hey, instead of, when I'm not getting my way with this NPC, instead of just murdering them, maybe I'll take a step back and figure out how I can get to like achieve the objective. Yeah. And so maybe you don't want to play like a barbarian because that's exactly what they would do. They would just murder the NPC. Maybe you could be a bard, right? Somebody who kind of rizzes them up, And yeah, so that's a great way that it helps people, I think.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, being able to incorporate the things that you're actually going through. Like, hey, I overreact. I react. I don't respond. Well, guess what? Now your character has to take that cool down moment, and they're not going to immediately respond. They have to slowly react to the situation. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
How did you come up with the nonprofit idea? There's a lot of people think that it's an easy road, but knowing intimately what it's like to get something off the ground, like, when did that become the mission rather than just something you were doing on the weekend?
Yeah. So admittedly, I thought it wasn't going to be too hard. I kind of went into it confidently. And once I started getting the ball rolling, I did more research. I was like, oh, this is going to be a heavy lift. Luckily, I learned that early on. I was like, all right, well, make sure I get some ducks in the row. I hired a lawyer. Shout out to Charitable Allies. They helped us get started, working our bylaws and walking us through the 501c3 process. They did a great job. And then also the website, right? Like that's a huge lift in itself. Like, how do you figure out how, like, I don't know how to do websites. I don't know how to build a website. Oh. That's expensive to pay someone to do a website. But luckily, there's someone local here in Niceville. I'm sure she's okay if I use her name, but Miss Nicole Munn with Lightwave Branding and Design, she did our website pro bono. I told her about the mission, and she was like, yeah, I want to do this pro bono because this is a great idea. And that really reaffirmed, our decision to push forward with, hey, this, because you need that sort of affirmation, like you're doing the right thing, right? Like this is a good idea, to kind of help keep you moving forward. And so, yeah, that the nonprofit idea is, okay, how can we best impact the community? And we're gonna need money to buy certain things. So that's where the idea for the nonprofit came from. It's like, we should do this so that way we can have a larger impact in our community.
Yeah. And as you're operating right now, what are some of the things that you guys are able to do?
Yeah, so we just got our 501c3 status in August of last year. We're slowly building because we're an all volunteer board.
Okay.
And so we're trying to take things slow, not too fast, because we don't want to outgrow our britches, right? So
scaling at the right time, and that's something that only you and your team know when it's the right time to move up and scale up. I think one of the most annoying things is when outsiders come in, they're like, "Oh, bro, you got to move. You got to start doing this, X, Y, and Z." And there's a lot to be said for help. We all need help in our endeavors, but you have to be able to trust in your board members and trust in your own vision too. Like, be able to understand, like, okay, advice is awesome, help is great, but only I know when it's the right time. Because there's nothing worse than overextending and then having to dial it back. It's like, fuck, we only have X amount of money for this year. And that's the thing about nonprofit that's really scary, is everything has to be just absolutely perfect when it comes to the finances. You want people to trust you. You want people to be able to look up and say, eventually, like Operation Tabletop, they're one of the most vetted and highly respected nonprofits out there. But just one mistake can deter all that. And it's definitely something that comes with a lot of headaches, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I have anxiety. My anxiety spikes through the roof every time I have to spend money on any of the programs, because I'm like, I want to be a good steward, right? Like, I put myself in the shoes of a donor. Like, I want to know where, like, the money is going and what it's being used for. So we put out quarterly reports, every quarter, obviously, but and it shows, like, hey, it does reflect some shortfalls here and there, but it shows everything we've done for the quarter, and it allows people to see, hey, this is what we've done with your money. This is what our impact, and we do that every quarter so people can be up to date with that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard, but that's something that we definitely wanted to do because, we want to be transparent. We want people to trust us. Credibility is everything in this game. So, people need to trust that you're doing the right thing with their money, and it's helping the people that need to be helped. And so, it is nerve-wracking dealing with the finances. I told my friend, I was like, the first 2 people I'm going to hire as soon as we get the funding is a CPA and social media person.
Yeah.
Because those are both full-time jobs, and I don't want to have to deal with the finances. Like,
that's the one thing I can tell you from experience. Shout out to CJ. You have saved my ass in Texas, and you're well worth every penny. That's who does our books for us. She's amazing, great team member. I am just always late with my monthly reports, but she forgives me. So shout out to our security hall bookkeeper. You are amazing, and I promise I'll get better. But I won't. It's just crazy, man. Like, when you start an endeavor, you don't realize, like, lines of credit, checking account, all these different things, and it's like the way we structure and do everything, like everything's itemized, everything's freaking tallied, everything's looked. And I am the worst because I'm either doing post-production work for one of the shows that I work on or for my own stuff, and then before I know it, I have like 15 emails like, I need your monthly statements. It's like, oh yeah. My bad.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, where do you see the program, like when you look at the future, how do you envision Operation Tabletop growing into a formidable nonprofit? What do you see as the next phase?
Oh man, we have huge ideas, grandiose plans. Luckily, my sister came on board. She is now a council member.
Nice.
And she is a hard charger. And her friend that she links us up with is a nonprofit leader as well. And her name's Erica Gaffney, and she is awesome. She has been instrumental in like helping us, in direct this thing in the right path and keeping us, putting the bumper lanes up for us and giving us some tools to be successful. So shout out to you, Erica. But to give it some context, with what we're doing right now, well, I'll mention the present that'll kind of tee up the future. Yeah. So right now we are running our program that connects vets, right? So we're running the roundtable program that is just the baseline mission, connect vets over tabletop games. And then we also want to do a peer support program.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm a peer supporter in the Air Force. I love it. That's helps. It's great. I think there needs to be more peer supporters. We just need the right people to do that, right? So, I have the training slides. We're going to build that out, and so that's kind of the next phase is to provide peer support training. So that way, once we start to get these vets to the table, these peer supporters who are highly trained and can in crisis intervention can recognize some of these indicators and jump on it and ask that difficult question like, hey man, I noticed you're going through this. You've said some things like, here's kind of concerning. And then, answering the question if they're thinking about committing suicide. And then way down the line after I retire, I'd like to come back here to Niceville, get a brick and mortar place and just have people come by. They can grab games off the shelf, get some coffee or some tea, which, by the way, coffee and tea is the drink of choice for OTT. For Operation Tabletop, because we obviously alcohol is like the number one abused substance by veterans.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, that's something that I talk about a lot lately in my own journey. I wrote about it. You can go check out the blog at securityhaltpodcast.com. It's something that we all inherited in the military. When you come in, it's like the thing that you do, whether it's to celebrate or to overcome something. It's constantly in the periphery. It's constantly in your face. Drink, drink, drink. Like, this is what we do. This is our culture. But take it back take it back another layer and look how alcohol was first brought into your life. As a kid, I drank in high school. I drank after football games. It was cool to go to those parties and drink. But why? Peel it back again. Why was it cool? And at some point, some of us saw it on TV. This is what the adults do. This is what the cool people do. The reality is, as you get older, you realize that there's nothing great about being told what to do. Everybody's going to tell you what to do. Make the decision for yourself. When I analyzed it and I peeled back the layer and I realized that there's no positive factor about drinking, it doesn't bring any greatness into your life. It doesn't. It doesn't make me more intelligent if I hold a bourbon in my hand and a cigar in the other. Fun fact, cigars fucking stink. They taste like shit. Stop lying to yourself and telling yourself that it tastes good. You know it doesn't. The other thing, they're fucking awful. They're just, and the amount of time people have tried to tell you, if you want to be one of the guys, you're going to have a cigar. Fuck that. I want to be me. I want to be me. And nothing about me relaxes with a drink. Fun fact, it's the opposite. It's the thing that I reached out for when I was suffering. And then I kept drinking. Because I couldn't get to sleep. I couldn't find rest. So I had to drink to get to that point. I don't want to do that. And then when I look at the health issues, statistically speaking, if you're a regular user of alcohol, if you're a regular drinker, you're more likely to have issues with heart disease, hypertension. I don't want to have that. I don't want to die at an early age because I was drinking too much. And that's a reality that so many of us have to do. Do yourself a favor. And I'm not trying to shame anybody that drinks. I'm just trying to say, hey, make the decision for yourself. Just go through that line of thought as to like, why do I drink? If you enjoy a beer, awesome. If you enjoy a bourbon, great for you. But if you don't enjoy it, if you really don't want to drink, but you find yourself drinking in social settings, or you find yourself drinking because you think that's what you should do, then there's the question. Are you living your life authentically for who you are, or are you living to impress somebody else? Look, at the end of the day, we only have one thing that we're truly in control, and that's our own life, like our own choices. Make the decision for yourself. And again, I'm not trying to villainize it. There's nothing wrong with being that person that enjoys drinking, but you overindulge in anything, there's a problem. So that's just my take on it. And I'm grateful for not drinking anymore. I'm grateful for seeing that it didn't bring anything to my life. And that's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't need it. I don't really need it in my life.
Yeah, man. Well said. I feel the same way. And my life has been much better once I cut out drinking. I think, people also drink in social settings because that's the thing to do. You meet up at like a great pub or, bar or whatever, and hang out, and it's there in your face, like you said. And it's like everybody else is drinking. It's the kind of thing to do. But you can go to a bar and hang out with friends and have some, have a pretzel or whatever, with some beer cheese and not drink. I do it sometimes. So and there's no issue. And my friends don't make me feel any sort of way about it. They might, harass me a little bit because, that's just what friends do, but they're not serious. So
and I think it's important to have that conversation of like, because I've had those situations where it's like, okay, I'm in a social setting. I'll get one of these, I'll get a wheat beer. At least it tastes like, I can put some stuff in it, make it taste better. But then when you realize, like, oh, wait a second, go back to your principles, go back to the reasons why you don't do it, and be okay with saying like, hey, you know what? I like liquid death. I just like bubbly water. That's fine for me. I don't need a drink. It's not something, and then look back to the way you used to cope with anxiety or social settings and how much you drank. That's a different Denny. That's a Denny that I don't want to go back to being. And when you get older, you wake up feeling like dog shit after you drink just a couple of drinks.
100%.
I don't have it in me anymore.
Once you get into your 30s, man, it's over. Like you have one beer, you wake up the next day, you're like, oh God. Like,
bro, I'm about to be 40. Fuck that.
So it's even worse, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Also, it does heighten your anxiety. I don't know how it does for everyone else, but I would notice that if I had just one drink, my anxiety would be spiked, and I would be waking up in the middle of the night, almost having panic attacks. Granted, that was also because I wasn't, taking care of the underlying issue. Which, kind of go back to is that, I was struggling with those things, alcohol being a big one. And I woke up one day and I was like, I've noticed everything that was happening. My wife, Jenna, she, she's awesome. God bless her. She really kind of helped me see it. It took her a while. I'm stubborn because she'd be like, oh man, you're playing video games all the time. I noticed you're drinking more. And, it's just like, shut up. No, I'm not, like, mind your own business. I'm fine.
Leave me alone.
If someone comes to you and you yell at them, like, or you just be like, hey, no, I'm not. Like, you're just seeing things or whatever. You start trying to gaslight them.
Yeah.
That's when you know you have a problem.
Yeah.
But she helped me. Good.
Yeah. If you're in your man room or your study with no lights on, just the blue glow of your TV screen, and you just holding on your controller with a tumbler of alcohol next to you, and people, when you get interrupted, you immediately like hiss at them. There's an issue. There's a problem there. Like, that's your wife. It's your family. They should be able to come up to you and say, hey, I am noticing that there is an issue here.
Yeah, 100%. And so she noticed that. And she helped me wake up, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I quit drinking, stopped watching porn, quit playing video games. I'm back to some video games now, like Baldur's Gate. But I I stopped playing any video game. I wouldn't even look at them. And I started focusing on my mental health and addressing the issue of the loss of my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, Denny, because your podcast helped a lot in that journey. I got linked up with 22-0, and they were a huge help at overcoming some of those, that grief and guilt too. I had a lot of guilt over the loss of my brother, because the night that he passed away, I had posted something on Instagram, and I was in Wyoming at the time. It was like about 8, 9 o'clock. So it would have been 10 or 11 o'clock, Virginia time. And he had liked my post. I was like, oh man, I should give him a call, see how he's doing. I haven't talked to him in a while. I was like, all right. The time ran through my head. I was like, oh, it's pretty late there. I'll just give him a call tomorrow because I'll be on my drive down to Colorado and, be driving through the Rockies. It'd be great to talk to him then. And that's when the next day came, got the call that he had passed away, that he had committed suicide. And I didn't realize that I had that guilt. It was kind of like hidden.
Yep.
And it's so subtle. Like all of those little things that eat you up, they're really subtle. And they're great at eating away at you without you really even realizing until it's too late, until you're at the bottom of a bottle, addicted to video games, addicted to porn. And then it's already when you've already spiraled pretty out of control that you recognize it.
Yeah. And it's such a painful thing to go through, but it's something that we need to share because it impacts so many people, like myself included. You get that phone call from a friend and you put it on snooze because you know that they're drinking, you know they're on drugs, and it's their habit. They're constantly high and they call you late at night, and I don't want to validate it anymore, so I'm not going to answer it. And then a few days go by and you realize, yeah, they were high. They were drunk. And they didn't wake up the next morning. Like that sticks with you. And then you realize, like, shit, man, like what if I could have changed his life? What if I could have done something, stayed up? But you realize that we all have a say in our journey. And when somebody's going through their worst and they refuse to get help, and this individual had gone to multiple treatment centers, had gone and gotten help, and had turned their back from sobriety. At that point, you have to understand, like, they're making a conscious choice. Like at that moment, there's nothing you can say to keep them from taking more drugs, from taking another shot of alcohol. Like, and we can't blame ourselves. We can't sit there and villainize ourselves for those moments where it's like, man, I didn't answer that phone call. I didn't answer that text. Like, it's not your fault. It's not something that you could have stopped. It's not something that gets at the end of the day, just like the previous phone calls, just like the previous text messages, they're still in the throes of addiction, or they're still going through that destructive behavior. Like, and we have to understand, like, hey, like, I was there for them. I was the best friend I could have been, but at some point you got to be able to just say, hey, like, I'm not going to get through them. And they're not getting they're combative, and they're turning away from all the other resources that you keep pointing them to. And it's just one of those things where I realize, okay, active and willing participant in recovery. We all have to be that. We all have to be that active and willing participant in our own treatment, and being able to say, like, hey, I'm going to do the most important rescue mission ever, and it's saving my life. Like, and it's a hard thing to understand, but once you understand it, it's like, okay, everybody has to say in their own rescue mission. Like, and unfortunately, some of our greatest friends and the most wonderful people on earth, they don't make that choice.
Yep, 100%. And, once you take that first initiative to be an active and willing participant in your own recovery, your own mental health journey, it's just like, if you take that first step towards doing something that's negative towards your mental health journey, right? you start on that downward spiral. It's the same if you go in the right direction, you can be on an upward spiral. And there's a great book about it. Forgot the author's name. Please forgive me, but it is, an awesome book, and it talks about the upward spiral and how just small steps you can take to bring yourself back up to 100%, like who you are, right? Get back to you. And that's kind of what, I read that book, or I listened to it, audiobook. And yeah, that was super helpful as well. And that's what OTT wants to do. They want to bring people to the table, because that's that first step. Just getting social and doing something fun is that first step to you taking charge of being it. Because we can't bring you to the table. You have to take the first step and actually come to the table and play. And that's that first step towards that upward spiral. And if we can, help facilitate that, and you can be on your upward spiral, then that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
How many times did I say upward spiral? I
love it.
I said
perfect.
A lot. But it's true.
It's true, man. Small steps forward beget more small steps forward. And before you know it, that little baby step that you once thought was impossible, like getting out of your room when you're dealing with depression. Now you're getting out of your room, you're taking a shower, you're going to meet Seth and sitting down and playing one video game. And yeah, you're vulnerable. You don't like being here, but then one person makes you laugh. And one person says something that resonates with you. And then before you know it, you play for a couple hours, then you're going back home. And then maybe depression kicks back in for a little bit. But then your phone goes off with a reminder for the next meeting. And you're like, fuck yeah, okay, that felt good. I'm going to do that. And then you show up and you play again. One more step forward. Now, you've been doing this for a few weeks now. And then in comes a stranger that was just like you at the very beginning of that journey. And you're able to tell them and give them encouragement to keep coming. And then the next game opportunity comes up and that person shows up. Now you're excited that they're going forward just like you were. Like our success gives other people the hope and inspiration to continue going through the process. And then it's a self-feeding loop of positivity. It keeps you going, seeing somebody else. When you see Seth succeed and you see Mark succeed and all these other people, you're like, fuck yeah, we're doing it fucking together. We're in this flotilla of self-recovery and healing, and it's fucking awesome. It's a great journey. And before you know it, you don't even recognize the old you because you have a new person that you're seeing in the mirror. And yeah, along with that comes being able to go and handing off in that person that next level of care to actually seek treatment. But a lot can be said for peer-to-peer support, just being around positivity, being around good people, and getting outside of that negative echo chamber. That's the most important thing. That's when change occurs. I saw it within myself, just within social media. Like, I will be the first to post stupid memes about military stuff and soft stuff. But one thing I don't dive into is horrible negativity, because I want you to come in and laugh at friggin' stupid memes, but then also come and see inspiration and hope from some of the podcasts. There's enough trauma-induced posting out there, and there's enough bad shit in the world. We need more Operation Tabletops. And Seth, I think that, and I said it when we talked earlier in a couple weeks ago, like what you're doing, like just the advocacy and the nonprofit work that you're doing is beautiful. But the byproduct of that is you're giving other veterans a clear-cut path to success. You're allowing other people to say, holy shit, Seth built a nonprofit? Maybe I can do it too. Maybe I don't have to sit here and just wallow in my misery. Maybe there's something to be said about finding my own passion, my own purpose. And if Seth is fucking doing this, maybe I can do it. And that's the beauty of it. It's being able to put a representation, being able to put a veteran face. Oh shit, you're not even a veteran. You're still in. You're still doing the damn thing. Being able to put that face to other service members and say, hey, I'm out here. I'm changing lives. I'm leading the way. Come with me. Follow along this journey. That's beautiful, Seth. And I hope that isn't lost on you. And I hope that when you rally around with the rest of the members of your team, you can have a little bit of a celebration. Like, I know you're not exactly where you need to be and want to be, you haven't hit that pinnacle moment, but man, like you've already done something that is groundbreaking. And if you haven't celebrated that yet, I want you to make time to celebrate that today. Yeah, I can't tell you how phenomenal and to have been a part of the catalyst for that. Truly honored, man.
No, thank you very much for saying that. Those kind words, Denny. Yeah, it's been a journey, and I did struggle a lot with insecurity when starting this up, because at the same time I hadn't addressed the issues with my brother, and I had a lot of anxiety, so that was feeding into it.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I even smart enough to do this? Like, can I do this? And I had great people in my corner being like, you got this. Like, if there's people way dumber out there than you who are doing things like this, and they're having good success, not that, there's anything wrong with them, but you can do it too, man. And so I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, we can do this, we can make an impact, and we can save people's lives. And it's awesome. It's given my life a whole new meaning. And this is how I identify myself now. Like, I identify myself as a nonprofit leader, Operation Tabletop.
Fuck yeah.
Granted, I'm still very proud of my career in the military and proud to be an airman. But the military is not my identity, my sole identity anymore. It's this, and amongst other things, being a husband, and a father to my puppy, Holly. But yeah, man, thank you. I'm really excited to where this thing goes. The combination between the tabletop community and the veteran community coming, like where this whole meets, a lot of great things are going to happen. And I almost have to put some like reins on it, because people are going to want to run 100 miles an hour with it. And yeah, we have a lot more work to do. And
absolutely.
We'll celebrate later.
Yeah. Well, Seth, you got a big event coming up, if you wouldn't mind plugging that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So next month, it's as you know, it's PTSD Awareness Month. I believe it's also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month as well. And but we're focused on the PTSD side of things more specifically. But the idea is that we're having games every Saturday in the month of June, in order to provide a place for vets to kind of come together and come to the table and see how tabletop games and board games and role-playing games are helping people and can help you get to that upward spiral and find a new hobby. But then also spread awareness throughout that, right? Hey, these are some great resources that are out there that you might not be thinking of, that can help you. And Denny, I'm really glad that you're going to be a part of that as a roundtable, because you've been in this game way longer than me, and you've been obviously active and now veteran. You've been through the VA process, and so you can really give some insight to people out there who are struggling or don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's the intent. And at the same time, we have awesome creators, content creators, Twitch streamers coming together to raise money for us as well, because we're just focusing on providing a space for people.
Yeah.
We're not really soliciting donations. We're just providing a space and spreading awareness. But these content creators in the tabletop community are going to be doing their own live streams. This is all put together by one of our partners, which is Northwolf 911. His name's Steve, great dude. He's a Coast Guard vet, and he's bringing a bunch of people that he knows together to just raise some money for us, and also Wounded Warrior Project is a part of that too.
Nice.
So I feel great about it. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, Seth, I can't wait for this event. I know it's going to be awesome. And if you guys want to get involved with Operation Tabletop, just pause the episode right now. Bring up the description. I'll wait. Go ahead. Everything will be right there for you. Connect with Seth. Where can they connect with you, Seth? On Instagram?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at Operation _ tabletop. And we're also on Facebook, and we have a website, operationtabletop.org. If you go to our website and go to join the community, we also have a link to our Discord, and definitely jump in there, because as you're talking about with keeping that positive vibe going.
Yep.
Like, we have people posting, their daily runs in there, or pictures of their pets, and it's just where everybody's communicating. And it's not always about tabletop. It's just games. It's just vets connecting. And it's great. It's a great community.
Heck yeah. Well, Seth, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. And if you're out there struggling and you have a passion for tabletop games, check out Operation Tabletop. Hit them up. And if you're local, definitely attend their events. And to all you listening out there, thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.